What's up, guys? I wanted to make a video about Yone runes and items because I feel like there's been a lot of confusion ever since the recent patches with like Yonto getting added, Bork getting nerfed. So yeah, let's just get into it. Short video about items and runes. So first we have 3 items that we can go for Yone. We have Bork, Kraken, and Yonto. So for those who don't know, they changed Yonto. They reworked it into a AD attack speed crit item, which is what we've been asking for this whole time, right? So everyone thought like, oh, it's gonna be the go-to, but I actually think Yonto is not very good. Just because the build path on it is very, very awkward. I mean, it's BF sword, slingshot, plus longsword. So basically slingshot compared to recurve bow. Recurve bow is just such a better item for Yone in my opinion, just because like the DPS on it is a lot better. BF sword being in it is very, very awkward for a first item because let's just put a scenario where you have the slingshot, you have the longsword, right? You couldn't get the BF sword because you don't really want the BF sword early. You want the attack speed. And then you have to back with like 900 gold and then you just can't buy anything. And like those scenarios are going to happen quite a bit. So you just back, you already have berserkers, you have your slingshot, you have longsword, and you back 900 gold, you can't buy anything. So that's the first reason why it feels really, really bad. Second, you don't get the crit chance until you auto like a bajillion times. Like it starts out with none, and then every single time you auto, you get like 0.5% or something. I don't think it says it on the tip, but yeah, it's a very awkward item and just makes your early game so bad compared to like Kraken Bork, you know. So this feels awful. Also, it gives you 30% attack speed when you're in combat. Every 40 seconds, that gets reduced by increase of 2 seconds for critical strikes. So yeah, it's just a very, very awkward item. I think it's like one of the most awkward items they've ever made. I kind of called it from the beginning, this item is not very good, so I wouldn't really go it, but if you're in lower elo, it does give you 100% crit at 2 items, so a lot of people do like that, but in my opinion, in higher elos, I would stay away from the item. It's not very good. And I haven't seen like any higher elo Yones go this item. They tested it out, but they don't end up going through with it. So yeah, Bork is still the go-to. I would build this like 80% of the games, at least. It did get nerfed pretty hard. 2% on every single auto is a lot, but I mean the item is just so good for Yone. The lifesteal early, AD attack speed, it just feels really, really good. The dueling, and it scales the best because the more HP people build, or the longer the game goes on, the higher HP they get. So Bork is just always gonna do the most damage. So yeah, still the go-to. And I would say like at 20% of games, I would go Kraken Slayer, just because it makes you really, really, really strong early game. And it's really good against like range because it gives you movement speed, which can definitely be clutch. 4% doesn't sound like a lot, but it can definitely be clutch. But yeah, it gives you more attack speed, more AD. So as a first item, and against squishies, it's gonna outperform Bork. You just don't get the lifesteal, which feels pretty awkward. So like if you're against like a squishy team and you want to snowball early game, it feels really good. Also, another really good thing about it is the build path is insane compared to Yunto. That you can have the axe item plus this. After you build these two and berserkers, once you're like level 9 or something, you get 1.3 on Q already, which is, I mean, feels really, really good, you know, especially with lethal tempo. So yeah, if you really want to snowball early, you're against like high range squishies, Kraken is actually pretty good for Yone. Here's some just like generic builds. Obviously, this isn't going to be like the build for these every single game. Yeah, these two are just basically the same, just replacing Kraken with Bork. You could do Jackshow 3rd or Jackshow 4th. It depends. If you wanna, if they're really squishy, you could just go Jackshow because you don't need the added damage from IE, and then vice versa. And yeah, the rest of the items are just, you know, Jackshow is just all around good defensive item. Dust Dance is just always a good Yone item. But yeah, it doesn't always have to be this build. Let's say you're against like all AD, you can go like Bork into Iceborne, then into Shieldbow IE, something like that, and all that. The Yunto build's actually different though, because obviously you get 100% crit at 2 items. So if you want to go Yunto, again, I don't think it's good, but if you want 100% crit at 2 items, you can do it. And especially in lower elos, it is better, because early game doesn't matter as much. So yeah, what I found best with this build was, a lot of people say like, oh, go Yunto IE, which I think is bad. I think it's way too overkill, way too squishy, having no defensive stats, no lifesteal. And 2 items just feels really, really bad. So what I did was Yunto, Shieldbow, Destin. So basically, you're just going to use this against like squishier comps, because this build makes you the tankiest out of like all the builds, right? Just because you're getting 100% crit with the shield bow, and then your 3rd item gets to be a defensive item, which feels really good. So it scales well. It scales well. So yeah, really bad early game, but it's gonna scale well. And then you get Bloodthirster last for the lifesteal, which I thought was really, really good. But yeah, I don't like Yunto, so I don't really experiment with the Yunto build too much. And then situational items, as I said, Iceborne, if they're all AD, I really do like Bork into, like, let's say you're against Irelia mid, they have Kha'Zix jungle, AD top, and then an AD carry, right? Going like Bork into Iceborne into Shieldbow feels really, really good. just because they're all AD and you're just going to be so tanky. And Iceborne is just a really solid item. I actually really like this item. They added a lot of damage to it. So yeah, if you're against all AD, I would definitely try Iceborne second. It feels really, really good. Obviously, if you need QSS, you're against like Malzahar, stuff like that. Can always build that. GA is just a good last item if you have like other people you can rely on. Stridebreaker's still good. You guys are probably like, oh, where's Stridebreaker? Because that's like still meta. I just prefer Shield Bow. But if you like Stride second more than Shield Bow, it's going to be less damage, but it's more like catching power, more HP. So you could definitely go Stride second. I just prefer Shield Bow. I think it feels better going like Jack Show third and then having 100% crit at 4 items. It just scales better. But I could see how like a 2-item Bork Stridebreaker feels pretty good. But again, I just prefer Shield Bow. And then we have Molder Reminder. So let's say you have like Bork, Shield Bow, Jack Show, and then you want 100% crit, but they're like, you don't need that much damage. You could just go Mortal because it's still a lot of damage, but it costs less than IE. And if you want anti-heal, like let's say they have a Soraka and a Swain and a Vladimir, obviously they're not going to have all 3 of those champs, but like a mix of those champions. Like if they have like 2 of any of those champs, then instead of IE, you could just like drop some damage for a cheaper build, and the Grievous Wound is going to be really good. So yeah, if the Grievous Wound is really good, or you don't need the damage, Mortal Reminder. But yeah, that's about all I have for the builds. I have 4 rune sets that I have right now. Let's just go with Lethal Tempo first. So Lethal Tempo obviously is like I think it's the most built one, or most picked one at the moment, because like it's new, which I thought it was pretty bad, but ever since they buffed it, 6% plus attack speed, especially at level 1, is really good. So yeah, I would say the go-to right now is Lethal Tempo. You're gonna take this against like comps you can auto attack a lot. It's really good in solo queue because it makes Yone stronger in skirmishes, which I think is one of the worst things about Yone in solo queue, is that when those skirmishes happen, you just feel useless with Fleet, right? You're just like, oh, I'm sitting in a corner. I don't really have my attack speed yet. But Lethal Tempo fixes this issue. So when there's like a grub fight and you have tempo, I mean, it just feels really, really good. So yeah, this is the go-to that I pick like most of the time at the moment. I like Lethal Tempo a lot. I think it's the most 1v9 rune at the moment. Now we have Fleets. So Fleet is never bad. I think it's the second most picked one, if not the first. Depends what region you're looking at, I think. I mean, if you watch my stream, you know that I'm a huge Fleet hater. I think the rune is very, very boring, and it just gives you like very low parry potential, my opinion. But I'm not gonna say it's bad because, you know, a lot of people use it. Well, it's not good reasoning for it, but I would take Fleet into like ranged comps, I guess, or ranged matchups, especially when the movement speed helps. So like against Syndra, for example, you could take Fleet because you could dodge her Qs better, and like you're just gonna get a lot of value from it. But honestly, you could still take Tempo into range matchups. The thing with Tempo is like, okay, Fleet is gonna give you a lot of value against ranged early game, and Tempo isn't. But I think if you're really good and you use Tempo to its fullest, like let's say you get level 6, you instantly ult onto them, and then you can actually kill them because you have lethal Tempo. So I think you could definitely take Tempo into those like range matchups too. But yeah, I would take Fleet, in my opinion, you take Fleet into range lanes where the movement speed's helpful. So let's say you're against Aurora or Ahri, where they have a lot of movement speed. The Fleet basically matches their movement speed. So like when Aurora uses her W and she's like really fast, the Fleet helps a lot with that. When you're against Ahri and she W's away, the Fleet helps a lot with that. So, but if you're against like a Victor or a Syndra, I would actually still take Tempo, just because they're not mobile, and once you get on them and you have Tempo, you just kill them. So hope that makes sense. Now we have Grasp. So Grasp is definitely very strong into those like melee lanes. So I would do this into like, the biggest one that I can think of is Akali. I think it's really good into Akali, just because Fleet doesn't really give you that pressure into Akali, in my opinion, like damage-wise. So, and Tempo is not really going to do anything into Akali because the trades aren't that long. So I think Grasp plus Shield Bash combo feels really good. But again, you can definitely take Demolish instead of Shield Bash. But I think if you're going for Grasp, you may as well just take the Shield Bash and just go for like a lot of damage early. That's what I like, at least. But you could take Demolish if it's more your playstyle. And for secondary runes, you go Alacrity Cutdown. What's another matchup you can go Grasp into? Maybe Renekton. I think it's probably pretty good into Renekton. I guess a good Renekton, I think Tempo's actually kind of bad, just because if he's good, he's just going to W, and you're not going to get Tempo value. But yeah, against a bad Renekton, you can definitely take Tempo and just kill him. Pantheon, Renekton, Akali, stuff that's like really short trades, it feels really good. Also, the added HP that you get is going to be really good, so they can't kill you in one hit, you know? So that's when you'd go Grasp. And then the last one, okay, so this one is going to look funny, and it looks like I'm trolling with it, but I actually think it's actually like pretty slept on. So the thing with Electrocute, this is gonna give you the highest kill pressure out of any of the runes in like laning phase, because you're gonna go Electrocute into sudden impact, and then eyeball collection. And I used to go Ultimate Hunter, but I actually think Treasure Hunter is better because with this rune page, you're just playing to snowball. So basically, the thing with this is that it's very, very OP in those like short trades, because the way you proc it is just you E, Q, W, and you instantly proc Electrocute, sudden impact, and you do so much damage. It's actually like a really, really, really fun rune page. The thing that's bad about it is that it doesn't really scale very well. Because obviously you're not getting, you can't go resolve second because you need the alacrity. You're not having that overgrowth, not having that like second one for laning phase, and yeah, you're not gonna have like lethal tempo or anything for scaling. So I would only go this against like really weak things that you want to just like kill early game so they can't scale. So I go this into Cassiopeia because the Cassiopeia matchup is really hard. Once she gets items, it almost becomes impossible for Yone against like a really good Cassio at least, because like she's just gonna ult you, W, all that, match all your abilities with hers, and it's very hard. But the thing with Cassio is that she's really squishy and really weak early game. So there's so many times when I'm against a Cassio, I just go this rune page, and I just kill her like 100 times because she's so squishy. So yeah, against those champions that you just want to kill early game, like Aurelion Sol, Cassiopeia, even Veigar probably, because like Veigar you're never gonna proc tempo against if he's good with his cage. Schmolder. So yeah, I would definitely try this because I think it's really slept on and a very, very, very fun page. Especially in lower elos, I would actually try to take like all of these except for Fleet. Because I think Fleet just gives you like the lowest carry potential out of all of them. Again, just take it into those matchups like Ari and stuff where the movement speed is really gonna help, right? But yeah, that's about all I have for today with this video. Hope it helped a lot and answered a lot of questions on what runes and what items you should build on Yone. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.